Hi people, hello, welcome back. This is COM1108. You guys are in a public speaking class, and ladies and gentlemen, it's already week 7. It's the final week, and I think a lot of you guys are pretty much quite relaxed in the sense that you have finished almost all of your assessments, majority, most of it. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that you guys are relaxed a little bit for COM1108, and I am very happy with your progress so far. Okay, so let's get going. Before we start our class, I just want to re-emphasize again on these assessments that you guys have. So in your let's have a look at this table here. By looking at this table, you would eventually see that we have done finished majority of our assessments. Okay, so the only two remaining ones are basically your group presentation, which is due this Friday, 11:59 p.m. Okay, so your group presentation is due this Friday. It's 11:59 p.m. And we also have your individual assignment. So please do not forget to do this. Okay, so please do not forget to do this. This is an individual assignment. I have briefed about it in a different lecture before. If you missed out that one, please have a look at it. It's very simple. It's on writing a reflection based on what you have gone through for this course. And I personally think there are a lot of things that you can share, experience having to learn power having to learn presentation in an online class could be a challenge. I'm really looking forward to, read your reflective essay. Okay, so as I mentioned, reflective essay could be very personal, so you can use a bit of personal pronoun going on there. So you can simply use I, you, we, all those words. And if you want, you can put some pictures. I'm not going to tell you how you can put these pictures, so I'm going to give and I'm going to leave the creativity part to you guys. Okay, but please make sure that you guys follow the guidelines in a sense of how many word limit and stuff. So that one is important, because if you exceed the word limit, I have to deduct 10% of your marks. Okay, as simple as that, because I need to be aligned and be on the same page with another lecturer who's also teaching this course as well. Okay, so for that reflective essay, that one is due on Sunday, 11:59. It's just a quick one. It does not matter if you want to give me one paragraph, 5 paragraphs, but please remember to follow the word limit. Okay, um let me reiterate again on your third presentation, which is also your final presentation. Now, I also want to emphasize again that these two assignments or these two assessments, you guys will not be able to know how much you guys marked as. Okay, so I'm hoping at the end of this week I can release your test 2 marks, and then I will finalize your presentation 2 marks next week. Okay, so you guys will be able to know all of these marks out of 70%, but you wouldn't be able to know your whole 100% marks. So your presentation 3, which is 20%, and also your reflection 10% is pretty much you won't be able to know it until the end of the semester, until the results are out. Okay, right, so again, I want to reiterate on your third presentation. This is a group project, so I need to see teamwork. I have shown you the rubrics on the marking scheme, how I'm going to mark it, so please go ahead and check it out again. There is one important component going on there that is about teamwork. So I need to make sure that everyone who's supposed to be in your group presents in the group itself. Okay, so it's very important. And also I want to emphasize again that you guys have to present in front of a specific group of people. Okay, and it has to be mentioned in your speech, preferably in your introduction, so that I know that you're talking to a group of Malaysian high schoolers, for example, or you're talking to a group of professional parents, or even a group of investors. So you can choose which type. Okay, so you have to choose one of the following out of A, B, and C. Please choose one. You don't have to cater to all because they are different group of peoples. Okay, so they are different group of people. Sorry, and just mention that you know explicitly mention like welcome Malaysian high schoolers, this is you guys are from which school, blah blah blah. I don't know, you guys do it. Okay, so please do explicitly mention who are your audience. Okay, that is very important because if you don't do it, unfortunately I have to deduct marks for that. Okay, right, so a bit of a reminder again on your on your presentation tree. As I mentioned before, I need to make sure that everyone participate in this presentation and has almost equal screen time. So one person can have about 2 to 3 minutes of screen time. Okay, so it does not matter. For example, this is how your presentation structure should look like. So it does not matter if you want to talk here 1 minute and then you want to use another 2 minutes talking here. It does not matter. So as long as everyone has almost equal time, screen time. Okay, so in total like 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, so if you talk here around 2 minutes, that's it. You can leave it to somebody else to do the next presentation. Okay, so please make sure that everyone has almost the equal screen time, and it's also important that everybody in your group has to participate. Okay, so how do you know who are your group members? Please have a look at your Blackboard. Okay, this is just an example. So in your Blackboard, okay, so the way I'm going to see it, because this is marked, okay, so the way I'm seeing it, I'm going to open your Blackboard. I'm going to see who are your group members. So when I'm judging your presentation, I want to see here, I want to see these 4 people are presenting in the presentation, in the video itself. So I want to see Bernadette, I want to see Jennifer, and I want to see Yuman, and also I want to see Shivani in that particular group. Okay, so it's very important that I see everybody and these group members. Okay, I will know it based from your Blackboard. So please double check your Blackboard, see if you're missing out any kind of, anybody group members. Okay, so if your group members are not cooperating, for example, they're not responding to your WhatsApp and stuff like that, so please send me an email, or because I need to, I don't think they deserve the marks. Okay, if they don't do the assignment, it's unfair for people who are doing the assignment, which are you guys, and I don't want to give free ride to people. Okay, right, so right, again, marks will be deducted if there is any dominating group member. For example, I know some of you guys are really good in talking, but if you keep on talking straight up 5 minutes and sticking majority of the time in that group, unfortunately, I have to deduct marks in terms of teamwork. Okay, so in your Google Drive, okay, as I shown here, okay, this is your Google Drive. Please make sure that you upload 2 things. First one is your video, and second one is your PowerPoint slides. Okay, video and PowerPoint slides, very important. And then also very important for you guys to show your hand gestures and also your face in the video so that I will be able to see it. Right? I wanna show you guys again. I think majority some I'm hoping that majority of you guys have started recording. So I'm not going to go much into details, but this is how I want you guys to sequence your presentation. So in your introduction, it should be a bit on the attention grabbing. I want to see if you're able to use some techniques that you learned from this course to gain the attention of your audience here. And then, as I mentioned, the first speaker in a group presentation is always the best speaker, because that is the most crucial one, because you need somebody to open the presentation and to make it lively enough so that people want to listen to the rest of your presentation. Okay, right, and moving forward is for you to actually increase the significance of your speech by highlighting on the needs. Okay, this is when I want you guys to introduce your charity or introduce your social issue, because because we are doing social business idea. Okay, so this is when you want to, introduce people to the problem that existed around the charity or the social issue that you guys are working on, and to make the audience feel like they have to do something about it, that this is a serious issue. And remember, when we are applying Monroe motivated sequence, it means that this is a persuasive speech. So you want to persuade your audience to contribute into doing something by listening to your speech, yeah? And next is the satisfaction. Now, satisfaction, after you tell them, ladies and gentlemen, we have a problem, and every single one of you can help us to overcome this problem. Okay, so next, after you're done with that, it's for you to provide satisfaction to the audience by telling them, do not worry, today we are here to offer you a solution. This is when you bring out your social business idea. This is when you tell us, okay, so our solution for this problem is to blah, 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 blah. Okay, right? Moving forward is visualization. So I introduced you guys about prototype, three different types of prototypes, depending on your time, depending on your constraint. Okay, you can use anything, literally anything, to do a prototype. It could be very simple one, and I need you to visualize your social business idea. I need you to show me, this is the general look of my social business idea. Okay, so I want you to use the prototype to explain to them, okay, this is how it looks like, this is the size of it, we're going to make it bigger or smaller than this, the colors will be like this, this is the main function of this, blah 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 blah. Please utilize your your prototype in a sense that you're not just showing it. Okay, you are explaining your product as well. Okay, so last but not least is for you to call for an action. Okay, depending on the audience, you can ask them, so I want you guys to, invest how much in this project, or I want you to introduce this project to your daughter or to your children, for example, depending. Okay, so that depends on you, that depends on your creativity, on how you want to close your speech with an action. Okay, so I'm hoping that this sequence is a bit more clear to you guys. Some of you guys have scheduled an appointment to discuss with me, and I think a lot of you guys are progressing very well. Those group who have talked to me lah. So I'm looking forward to listen to your presentation. I'm sure it's going to be great. Okay. So this is the Google Drive. Okay. So only one person, it does not matter who, okay, not necessarily the person's name in front of it. So I just wrote the your group member's name on in front of the folder, just so that it's a bit more clear, so that people won't get confused whose group is this. Okay, right? um Again, I want to ask you guys to double check your group members names in Blackboard, okay, because that is how I'm going to base the evaluation for teamwork from. Okay, right. So let's move forward to talk about the power of stories. So at the end of this lecture, it's just going to be a short one. Is I'm hoping that you guys will be able to tell a story to engage with your audience. First, let's have a look into why is story very, very important. So story is a very, very unique way, in a sense that it allows you to use a very strong language to convey your message. Okay, so story is important because it brings out such a memorable and human and persuasive speech to your audience. Right. When you tell a story, when you are telling a story, according to Boston Speak, who is a YouTube channel that always talks about communication and stuff, and he said that when a public speaker uses story to open their speech or to engage with their audience, it's more likely that you have 20 22% of people's attention when you use story in your introduction. So that is how powerful story is in the beginning of the speech itself. And story has a very, very unique way in a sense that it releases a lot of chemical in our brain to make sure that we're making us feel good. At the same time, when your audience is listening to a story, they will be trying to build some relationship to you as a speaker as well. Okay, so how did story do that? Basically, firstly, story creates a more attentive and interested audience. When you open your speech with a story, or even in the middle of your speech you are telling people story, you're making people a bit more interested with the topic itself. And not only that, story is actually also one of the many, many ways for you to make if you want to talk about something a bit more, controversial, something a bit more delicate, something a bit more sensitive. Story is often good because it sets the context to your audience. It gives them a bit of background to relate to your message more. All right. And it also gives you a very, very nice opportunity for you to be able to change the mind and behavior of your audience, as I mentioned, because it gives them a bit of a background information, a bit of context on your topic. Not only that, it also gives your audience being able to remember your speech even more, and has a personal connection with you as a speaker. So when they listen to your story, especially when the story is something a bit personal, they will be able to relate to you more. Okay. And last but not least, very obviously, when you use story, it enables your audience to feel your energy and to basically revamp your delivery to become a bit more lively, right? So these are the reasons why story is very, very important. There are two types of story that you can do. So the first one is basically just a recap story. Now, recap story is very, very basic. You just want, people to know some rough idea about the whole topic that you want to say. And it's very simple and not much detail. It's very surface. And very often when you just tell a recap story, your audience will not get very involved emotionally. Now, I'm going to give you an example of recap story. Okay, let's say that you want to watch Sabrina the Teenage Witch from Netflix. Yeah, so you want to watch that. So you want to watch the third season, which is coming out, and it's the final one. Okay, so you want to watch that, but you did not watch the first one or the second one. So what you do is that you just Google online, and there will be hits of YouTube channel who basically summarizes whatever that happened throughout the season, right? Or even you can check out the wiki page, or even there are a lot of websites nowadays that talk about, basically summarize the whole plot of the season, right? So you just read it. You don't watch it. So if you don't watch it, you don't become emotionally bonded with the season, but you just want to skip the two seasons and you want to watch the third season, basically. So that is recap story. It's very surface. You don't get too emotional because you were not even introduced to the characters. Okay. On the other hand, we have here situational story. Now, situational story is the opposite of recap story because it has a plot development and it's very impactful. Now, don't get me wrong, situational story is always it has a lot of details into it, but it does not necessarily requires you to talk more, in a sense that it takes longer for you to talk about it. Yeah. A good public speaker would be able to use situational story even in a very short amount of time. And you'd be surprised on how people can create situational story in a very short time. So, if you want to have a very good plot structure, you need to be able to understand, sorry, plot development. You need to be able to understand that there is a certain structure of a plot. Now, I'm pretty sure when you were in school, when you were learning in high school back then, when you were learning novel and you were learning, English novel, and you were learning a lot of short stories. Your teacher back then in high school perhaps have taught you about this pyramid, this special Freytag's pyramid. Yeah. So this is basically how a lot of authors, a lot of people, writers, they will create like an outline like this so that they understand their writings better. Okay, so the first thing is always the exposition, is when you want to introduce the characters, you want to introduce the setting, you want to tell us what happened. Okay, like a big background story of the whole thing. And then you want to have a bit of a drama, and you want to describe the a bit of the tension. Okay, and in the middle is always the climax. So climax is always the ba da da da, that moment, that bum 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 moment, that is always the climax, and it's the peak of every single thing. And this is when you want to tell the whole, it's like the most important thing in your whole story. Moving down is a bit more, trying to lose out the ends and trying to um you know basically wrap up the whole story. And lastly is when you are able to close the story itself. Now we're going to apply the same thing that you guys have learned back then in high school in your speech as well, in the sense that firstly, when you're trying to make a good story, is you need to start with a bit of a background information. You need to start with the time and place. Basically, provide the setting for us. And then describe the environment. Use strong language to describe it. Is it like, what is she wearing? Blah, blah, blah. What happened? Blah, blah, blah. What was it? How does it look like? What color is it? All those strong language will contribute here. Moving forward is when you tell us the reaction to what has happened or what is happening, and then the action that you took following the reaction, and lastly perhaps is the most important, okay, is the most important of all, which is how do you connect your story with your topic, and basically telling us, why are you telling us this story, why is it, how is it relevant with your topic. So I think a lot of speakers, they tend to use a story that is about the topic, but they don't explicitly mention why are they telling this story, and how is it relatable to the topic itself. Now you need to mention that to your audience so that it will automatically, like the aha moment, like, aha, I get it, yes, now I understand. So basically trying to make it a bit more direct to your audience, to say that, oh, now I see you're telling this because the topic is this, blah blah blah. Okay, now, I'm going to show you a video clip on how people can use, stories in a meeting. And we're going to try and see if that speaker was able to use all of these in one single video. Okay, let's have a look.
Hello, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Lynn Hernandez. I'd like to thank you all for attending. Our agenda for this meeting is to discuss the feedback from last year's training conference and come up with ideas on how to make this year's conference better, but with the same budget as last year's. Did everyone have a chance to read the attachment I included in my email invitation? It was a list of some of the stronger feedback and suggestions we received from people who attended last year. In case you didn't, I printed out copies for everyone. We'll start our meeting with this. Please take one and pass the rest of.
Now, if we were to look at this scenario, if we can say, it's basically quite normal in like a meeting setting, I guess. It's always the chairperson who's talking and everyone else is like taking notes, looking at their iPad, and we're like, just another ordinary meetings, right? Now let's see, what can we learn from this? What can we critique on this? Okay.
Did this example feel like a typical meeting situation? This presenter started in an expected manner. The initial actions were a cue to the audience to stop paying attention. The presenter now has the challenge of regaining their attention to accomplish the meeting goals. Do you think the presenter will be successful in regaining the audience's attention? Had the presentation started with a story, the presenter would have been able to gain and keep the audience's attention and guide them to the presentation goal.
Hello, everybody. It was the final day of last year's conference. I was walking through the lobby of the hotel and couldn't help but notice this woman furiously taking notes while speaking on her phone. As I came closer to her, I noticed she was wearing a badge and realized that she was associated with our conference. Her energy was palpable and just stopped me in my tracks. I couldn't help but overhear her conversation. She said something that has stuck with me for the last year. I have learned more in the last 2 days than I learned in the first year of working here. After I heard that, I stuck around for a while, waiting for her to finish her conversation so I could talk to her. She told me her name was Liliana and that she had worked in the curriculum improvement department for the last year. She also said that she had been feeling isolated in her work, that she was confused because she didn't really know what was next for her or how really to improve her own work. As a result of this conference, she was able to make some really significant connections with colleagues, as well as find strategies that directly impacted her current job. My challenge to all of us today is to figure out a way to have everybody feel the way Liliana did at the end of the conference.
Right. Now, when we look at the second presentation, she obviously looked a bit more confident. Um, she removed the chair that was going out of the way, and I really like how she was standing up and she looks very confident with her story. So this is exactly a bit more different than the typical meeting, I guess. Let's go back again onto trying to go through one by one on her speech. Now we see that her speech was not long. I think it was around like 1 minute or less. So even in 1 minute, you will be able to grab, your audience attention by using a story. Now, if we look in the beginning, she actually set up the setting. So she was trying to evoke her colleagues' attention by, telling a story about one of the participants for their conference, and she was using strong language to describe the conference itself, which was really awesome, which was very good, and she gave very, very good details about the person, the character that was involved in the story. And what's most important for me from this, basically from this presentation, is that she was able to connect the details of the story to them, the audience. So she said, like, the challenge is to produce something like this in this year's conference. So to her, the story of the story of the participant was very impactful for her. She felt like very achieved, and she felt like she did a good job in last year's conference, and she wanted to do the same thing this year as well. So she's basically urging her audience, which are her colleagues, to say that we need to do something similar in this year's conference as well, which to me was really, really awesome. Now, This is basically a significant proof on how you can actually produce or to use a story to grab your audience attention, and it does not have to be long. So even if, let's go back again onto the slides. So even if we were to look back again on this, plot development, it looks like there are a lot of things to do, a lot of things to say, but really it's not that much. And she managed to do it in a very, very good length of time, which I think something that we all can learn from. Okay. Right. So, from the video clip, it was evident to us that the second presentation, the speaker was able to engage with her audience even more by using strong language. And how did she do that? By telling a story, by asking them to, basically visualize back again on the conference before, and she used emotion to evoke them and say like, we need to do something similar again this year. Okay, so I think that was a very interesting technique, and she was able to develop engaging stories to align and direct the audience to the most important thing or the goal of the presentation. And again, please do remember, even if you want to use a story, you need to connect your details of your story to why you are telling the story. So basically connecting back again the story with your topic, with the goal of your speech itself. Okay? So it's very, very important for you to do that. Right. So these are some of the general tips into trying to have storytelling as part of your speech. So the first thing is basically start with the scene, as I mentioned. You need to be able to give enough background information for your audience. That is why you need to give enough details about the time, the place, the setting, the whole thing. Okay, so why is it important? Because it creates a dramatic effect in a sense that people are able to visualize more from your speech. Okay, so as I mentioned, when you are using storytelling, it does not mean that you have to do it in a very long time. It could be as simple as 1 to 2 minutes. And most importantly, it has to be energetic. Okay, it cannot be monotonous. It cannot be hello, hi, I want it. Okay, you have to be very passionate. You have to be very energized when you are using this technique. Okay, so it's also important for you to use as much room as possible in a sense that please move around the platform, or please move around the room, because it helps to tell the story. If you can, if you have audience in front of you, that is your chance to actually engage with your audience. Okay, so as I mentioned, it's important for you to tell us the characters as well, give us the background, and if possible, okay, if possible, it will be even much more interesting if you can be the character itself and even use a special voice. No, this is very, very interesting, especially if your audience are people who are a bit younger, in a sense that they would appreciate you becoming the character. Okay. Right, so now I want to move forward to Blackboard Task. So as I mentioned, telling story. Once you're done with this lecture, I want you guys to practice a little bit. So what I want you to do is that I want you guys to go through some videos on YouTube, and it does not necessarily have to be a presentation video. It could be, you can find TED Talk if you want to. TED Talk are always nice, good presentations. But most importantly, I want to introduce you guys to a spoken word poetry. So spoken word poetry is a type of poem, but the language of it is very relaxed, and it's a bit like you're talking to someone. So I personally do enjoy spoken poetry, and I think it's very impactful, it's very powerful, because it tells you a story. All right. So I will be providing an example of my favorites spoken word poetry. Again, you don't have to find a poem if you don't like. Okay, so you can basically find any kind of presentations that uses story. Okay, so basically if you have if you've seen a video or like a presentation anywhere on YouTube that a, the technique of story, please share with us. So I want to see that. Um, Share it with us and tell us why do you think that you like the presentation, or why do you think that you really like the way the speaker deliver the story itself. Okay, so I will be posting it in a bit. I shall be providing my say, and I hope that we can basically learn from each other from this activity and have a look at different people, convey stories, and hopefully we can be better at telling stories to people. Okay, thank you so much for joining me, guys. Please do not forget to do this Blackboard task. You have to complete both listening to the lecture and also doing this Blackboard task in order for you to get these attendance taken. As I mentioned, I'm extending the due date for this. So instead of Sunday, please try and complete this lecture and also listening to this lecture, and also complete this Blackboard task before Monday 11:59. Okay, I'm sure you guys will do amazing, and I really really do look forward to you to listen or to even watch your favorite presentation or even favorite spoken word poetry or poem. Okay, all right. So see you guys on Friday. Bye bye.